Hey everyone, Tech OG here, representing those who are 40 and up who love their tech. So Motorola just had their small and quaint press conference of their Razr lineup for this year. Now what I'm going to do is break down the specs for each phone so that you know what each of them have and what each offers and the price points of each of them, so that if you are deciding to get one for yourself, you know which one that you would want to get based on the features and the price point. I'll start with the lowest spec Razr. The Razr 2025 is going to have a MediaTek Dimensity 7400X processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, and this is the only variant for this phone. 3.6-inch cover screen, 6.9-inch inner screen, so when you flip it up, it'll be 6.9 inches. The outer screen is going to have a 90 hertz refresh rate, and the inner screen is going to have a 120 hertz refresh rate. The camera setup is going to be a 50 megapixel main camera on the cover screen, a 13 megapixel ultra wide camera, and when you flip it open, a 32 megapixel inner camera. It's going to support a 4500 milliamp battery, 30 watts wired charging, and 15 watts wireless charging, and it's going to have a $700 price tag. The Razr Plus 2025 model, as far as specs, this is going to have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 processor. Basically, this is the same processor in the Razr Plus 2024 model from last year. It's going to have 12 gigabytes of RAM and 200 gigabytes of storage, or 256 gigabytes of storage. It's going to have the same 4-inch cover screen as last year and a 7-inch inner screen, so slightly, very marginally bigger than the Razr 2025 model. The inner and outer screen will have 165 hertz refresh rate. The camera system will be a 50 megapixel main camera, 50 megapixel 2x zoom camera, just like last year's model, and a 32 megapixel inner camera, just like last year's model. So all three cameras are just like last year's model, nothing different. The battery is going to be a 4,000 milliamp battery, and I believe that's the same as last year's model as well. 45 watts wired charging and 15 watts wireless charging, and it's going to come in at a $1,000 price tag. The newest entry in the Razr lineup is the Razr Ultra 2025. The specs for this as follows. It's going to have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, the same processor that's in the S25 Ultra, the Samsung S25 Ultra. Excuse my stuttering, I'm hungry. It's going to have 16 gigabytes of RAM and either 512 gigabytes or a whopping 1 terabyte of internal storage. Pretty awesome. I guess that these are the good specs for the Ultra series. It's going to have the same 4-inch cover and 7-inch inner display as the Razr Plus 25. The inner and outer screen is going to have 165 hertz refresh rate, just like the Razr Plus. It's going to have the very first, according to Motorola, the very first triple 50 megapixel camera system. 50 megapixel main, 50 megapixel ultra wide, and 50 megapixel inner camera. And it's going to have a 4700 milliamp battery, 68 watts wired charging, which is very fast, and 30 watts of wireless charging. And it's going to have a dedicated AI button. And a $1,300 price tag. Now, I can understand the three different types of Razr phones as far as having these particular specs for each phone and the price tags for each of the phones. So basically, if you want the best in the Razr series, you want to get the Ultra series, where that's going to have the the 8 Elite processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, better storage, and the triple 50 megapixel camera system on it. So again, I can understand the specs as to for each phone to figure out which one that you will want to get. But what is irking me because from last year, the Razr Plus in the US was the best razor that you can get as far as specs. They should have changed some of the specs on this and given some of the specs that was on the regular Razr onto the Plus to make it a much better phone to get for the $1,000 price tag. And what do I mean by this? I don't understand why the regular Razr is going to have an ultra-wide camera and the Razr Plus is going to have that 2x zoom camera, which people did not like from last year. People who had the Plus wanted to have the ultra-wide camera on the Plus. It would have made more sense to put the 2x zoom camera, the camera that people didn't like, on the regular Razr, the one with the $700 price tag, and put the 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera on the Razr Plus. So that'll entice people to get this one for the $1,000 price tag, as opposed to spending $300 more for the extra specs for the Ultra. So I don't know how Motorola is figuring this out, because I don't think that they know that people will probably not buy the Ultra one. I mean, for the most part, people are not going to have $1,300 just to buy a phone anyway. They're going to buy it in installments. They're going to use Klarna. They're going to use other pay-as-you-go or pay monthly or every other month. Use those type of credit things or purchasing aspects to get the phone. So in that aspect, it will make more sense to shell out money every month or every other month for the $1,300 phone, because you're not paying $1,300 outright for the phone. But for those who just want to spend the $1,000, like I said, it would have made more sense to put the better camera, the ultra-wide camera, on the Razr Plus as opposed to the, the regular Razr. So like I said, that should have been on the Razr Plus. And what doesn't make sense just from looking at this, the regular Razr is going to have a 4,500 milliamp battery, and the Razr Plus, which costs more, is going to have a lower battery. That doesn't make sense to me at all. They should have put the 4,500 battery on the Razr Plus and the 4,000 milliamp battery on the regular Razr. That would have made some more sense, because this is cheaper, the less specs, the cheaper the price. That would have made a whole lot more sense. Because as you can see with the wire charging, you have better wire charging on the Plus and less charging on the regular Razr. That makes sense. The wireless charging is exactly the same, but again, you're getting better charging on the one that costs more. So that makes a lot more sense. So it doesn't make sense, like I said, to have the ultra-wide camera, which people wanted from last year on the Plus, on the regular Razr. Yes, that is going to help sell the regular Razr at this price tag, so a lot more people will buy it because it's cheaper. And like I said, you're getting the better camera, but like I said, it doesn't make sense when you're selling this phone too, and you want people to buy the $1,000 phone. You should have had, again, the ultra-wide camera on the Razr Plus as opposed to the regular Razr. And the 32 megapixel in the camera is on both devices. Like I said, this makes no sense to me whatsoever, and that makes no sense to me whatsoever. But the 7.8 screen, because that's slightly bigger than the 6.9 on the regular Razr, that makes sense. The 4-inch cover screen, that makes sense. The extra RAM, that makes sense. The same sort, they should have had 512 gigabytes of RAM on the Razr Plus. That's just my personal opinion. The same processor from last year, because it's still viable in 2025, that makes sense. Having the MediaTek processor on a regular Razr, that makes sense because, again, of the price tag. Again, this should have been moved to the Razr Plus, that should have been moved to the Razr Plus, and 512 gigabytes of storage should have been moved to the Razr Plus. That's just my personal opinion. So there you have it. That's the new lineup of the Razr phones for this year. And again, they should have done more justice on the Razr Plus, especially for the price tag of $1,000. Whether you split the cost or pay for it outright, you should be getting better things on the Razr Plus than the actual Razr. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know what you think. You tell me what you think in the comment section below. If they should have done the particular upgrades that I am saying for the Razr Plus than the Razr, and is the Ultra worth the $1,300 for the upgrades on that phone? In my personal opinion, I do think it's worth the price, especially if you pay over time or pay in installments or things like that. I definitely think it's worth it, especially if it's going to have the 8 Elite processor in that phone too, to give it the best specs and to have it run at the best speeds and things like that. So let me know what you think about the new Razr lineup for this year. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you considering getting a 2025 Razr phone this year? Or will you go with the 2024 from last year, the Plus model, for example? Or will you even go with the 2023 model, because even that is viable in 2025, because all the phones will still, well, for the 2023 version, they'll still have at least, I believe, one OS update on there. With the 2024 model, I think it'll have 2 updates, and on the 2025 model, it'll have 3 fresh updates of Android OS. So let me know what you think in the comment section on which you would get if you are considering getting one this year. If you enjoyed the video, enjoyed the content, definitely let me know, leave a thumbs up, and make some comments in the comment section. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends about my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video.